Well, good morning. Thanks for getting up early. I appreciate y'all this morning. Good morning,
Good
Brian. Good
morning.
morning,
Good
Shelby.
morning.
Shelby, I didn't know, Shelby, you were joining us this morning.
Surprise.
I love it because I saw Liz Hinton last night, and she said Shelby's not joining y'all. I said I don't think so. When Viola said when she sent the messages, she said it would be Brian and James, and then she sent me another message that James couldn't join us this morning. So now I'm delighted that you could get back in. How are y'all doing? Happy holidays.
Hey,
Yes, happy
holidays.
holidays.
So I know you've got this conversation coming up tomorrow, a community conversation on the intimacy of urban violence of 2025 in New Haven, Connecticut. Um, and I know that y'all do all this justice work around in the carceral state. Y'all are through the Yale Institute on Incarceration and Public Safety. And so talk a little bit about what this is, because Liz gave me a little bit of y'all been going around the state having these very serious conversations. What are these conversations looking like?
For so yeah, it is on the intimacy of community violence, specifically inner city violence, mostly gun violence. We're talking to largely justice impacted people in the communities that they come from on the impacts of those violence, and every conversation is different. Every city we go to is different. That's something that surprised me. You know, you would just assume that you will be dealing with the same dynamics, which in many ways they are, but they're, Bridgeport is different from New Haven, and New Haven is Bridgeport from Hartford and Waterbury, and so on and so on. So, um, just like the violence, the conversations are intimate, they're raw, um, and they touch on a lot of hidden issues that
Mhm,
are also apparent, but they are hidden.
mhm. And so what is your connection and history to these kinds of conversations?
Well, for me, I served 20 years inside the Department of Correction for the crime of murder. So I have impacted my community in the ways that I speak about. I had navigated through the justice system, um, pleading to get my case overturned, which was overturned when new evidence was found after 20 years. Um, I posted a bond and I was reincarcerated when the Supreme Court thought that the lower courts made a mistake in reversing my case. So I went back in and served more time. And then I was released again. So my relationship to this issue is very close. I have impacted my community in many ways negatively, and as I sat for a couple of decades, you begin to think about um, what happens after those holes are left in families and community, and those dominoes that they're still falling. We're still people are still broken, communities are broken, individuals are broken, families are broken. The justice system, it functions the way it's intended to function, which is to disrupt, people's lives and communities and generations. So that is my relationship to it. Is you as I hold myself accountable, and for me, this is more it's about community, but it's also my individual journey to find healing, to find accountability, and I don't know. I choose to do it in a public way, hoping that it helps somebody. But in my journey, I I look to see what can I offer to community through my experience with accountability and healing.
Mm. Thank you. So, Shelby, what is your relationship? Tell us a little bit about how you come to this work.
Yeah, I think for me, the relationship, I don't think it's an isolated issue. I think this is something for everyone. We hope to see, more people than just, directly impacted people at the conversations. I think what Love was saying, this is about the community. We're trying to break down the binary of the victim versus the perpetrator. And I think we're only really going to get there by coming together. We don't have all of the ideas. And every conversation is different. There's new ideas. There's different ways of thinking about it. There are people who are challenging us, and not everyone agrees. So I think we really have to start talking about these issues, and just really come together. So, yes, for community.
Mm. Okay, so you started these conversations. What is the? I mean, beyond just violence, what else is the common thread? I mean, every place that you go is very different. There must be some common thread that you hear that sort of connects all of these conversations in a way that you're like, okay, even though I know we're in Bridgeport, there's something in common here with New Haven or New London or wherever y'all are having these conversations.
What I find is common, even though we went into this. It was a lot of work going into this and planning how to navigate the state, how these conversations would be held, what is the proper way, how do you um, discuss some of the issues that I knew we would discuss, and I do this work. I got a nonprofit, Guided by Purpose initiative, which I'm the co-founder and president of, and we try to find non-carceral responses to community violence. So I do this work in another um, way as well. So I kind of know how these conversations go and how raw they can get. And in that venue, we deal with real time issues. So we get phone calls and then we respond mostly in that way to active situations. This is not that. This is people coming to discuss, but in the other way that it's more hostile. So you I know how raw it can get. But what I find is that even in that, when we're doing that work in the streets, and then when we're doing this in these centers or halls or wherever we're at that we're lucky to get into, I find that the common thing is people are broken and community is broken. I don't care where we go, and that is like the first um, responses. It's like survival. Everybody's just trying to survive the issues around them, whether it's poverty, whether it's homelessness, which what I mean. All of these underlining issues have repercussions and consequences when people try to navigate and fix them. And I think that's what I find most when people talk. They're talking from a sense of being broken, whether individually, whether it's the family structure, whether it's outside your window in the community, whether it's school system. It's an underlining factor of brokenness that everybody's operating from. And we are just seeing the collateral damages and the consequences of that. And that's kind of what I hear just in many different stories unfolding.
Mm. Shelby.
I mean, I think everyone comes to the conversations primarily because they're eager for change. We know that there's systematic issues. We know that the system is not working for us, and the community is saying enough is enough. We're coming to talk about the issues, and we're preparing for the 2026 legislative session. So I think people are pretty much just like fed up. If you look back, the last couple of years, we hear people like Love who said, he's been home, but the community doesn't look different. The issues are primarily the same. Um, so we're fed up. And I think people also come because they do want healing. They do want changes. We want different ways. There's hope. Everyone comes, although we're fed up, people are coming because we still have hope.
Mm.
Uh,
So it sounds like to me, Love and Shelby, that there's a couple of things happening here, right? You having these conversations on the ground, and then you got to get geared up for the legislative session, and that's a whole different kind of conversation to talk to legislators about what the needs of the community are. And I imagine the conversation has to be about the allocation of resources to these communities that historically don't get allocation of resources in high demand, high amounts. Is that part of the conversation, or like when you talk to legislative leadership, what are you saying to them?
Right now, the our strat. I mean, it's many conversations we need to have with legislators. Um, and I'm new to this work on the legislative side, and I'm more of a student. But we are primarily focusing on this juvenile parole bill with
Mm-hmm.
these legislators, which currently just blackballs a lot of people who committed their offenses while juvenile the opportunity to be seen as juvenile by the state. They have a arbitrary cutoff date of October 1st, 2005, which, regardless of your age that you committed your offense, if you're not sentenced by that date, you won't be afforded parole. And in many cases, the opportunity to come home with a period behind it. You know, we could stop right there at that sentence. So this issue affects hundreds of people, hundreds of families. The state really missed the ball in this when they tried to do some reforms with the juvenile bill. So we are looking to follow the science, raise the age of the juvenile, which the scientists say and the brain studies say, and the people are accepting that are writing the articles, which is under the age of 26 or 25 or under, following brain development, and remove the arbitrary cutoff date of October 1st, 2005, and pivot back to the age of the person when the offense was occurred, and then the typical things that follow, given access to parole and a meaningful opportunity to be released, as our Supreme Court has said in Washington. So that is our conversation currently with the legislators, is trying to fix that to get these brothers and sisters back home to their
Mm-hmm.
families.
You have something to add to that, Shelby?
Yeah, I think for me, we were like intentional about like the conversations. We wanted it to be the solutions that we developed to be like community led. And we're not just talking for the community or at the community and saying like, hey, this is what you need, because things look differently in different parts of the state. And the resources and the needs are going to be different. Um, I think naturally this conversation around the juvenile parole bill uh, just naturally happened. We're kind of carrying this mantle from the previous legislative session. But I don't think this is going to be the end for us. So I think we're going to keep going, and we're going to be inspired by everyone. We're going to be inspired by everyone.
So talk to me about some of the barriers. What are the barriers to having these conversations? Like, and have you found ways to get around them or pull them down or get people over them? Like, what are some of the barriers when you have these conversations with community?
Well, I think I can't speak for Shelby, because I think I mean, everybody comes with their own, looking at these things different, and because I get a lot of phone calls afterwards, and people see different things. Like looking at art, you see different things. But for me, I think what helps the most is credibility, um, trust, and safety. Because you're dealing with raw issues. I mean, so far the dynamic of the room, um, for me, has been intentional. I reach out to people that are impacted and returning home, because I know the trauma and the journey, and just the isolation that you feel, that I still feel myself. I could be in a room with 30 people, and I'm the loneliest man in that room, and it's just the makeup of that type of isolation. and incarceration, it changes the makeup of your brain and your social skills. So I, I'm on a journey myself to repair that. So I try to reach out to people that, although they may not articulate that to me, um, some will after they say, all right, this man's been through it, or this is the place and the people that are trying to help me, like Shelby, Elizabeth, and so forth. And we got the credibility and a place to do it, which is safe, and they could trust us. So we try not to record. We try not to do things because you never know what's going to come up with the issues that people are dealing with in their community, in the streets, but specifically. Um, so just creating the right spaces where people can feel free to say what they need to say, respond accordingly, and get the follow up as need be.
Mhm, mhm. Okay, so you're having the community conversation tomorrow, Thursday, it's from 6 to 8 at the New Haven People Center on 37 Howe Street. So, in starting these conversations, I know y'all went into this knowing some stuff. You get some understanding of what the community was dealing with from lived experience, from knowing people, all that. What came out of this that you just didn't know? And you were like, I did not know that before. Or what resonated with y'all that you didn't even consider before you started having these conversations? Or if anything at all.
Well, for me, my relationship is it's all lived experience, right? It's all personal, which many of us are, not just because I was um incarcerated, but we are all directly impacted, right? Barbara Fear told me that one time, that should really change the way I looked at a lot of things when she told me to how to use that word directly impacted. So we are all directly impacted. We are all affected by the traumas of it all, the poverty, the incarceration, the violence. It's intimate, right? And I often use the example that I speak to many women that are mothers that have buried a son, and another son is in jail for murder himself. So she's treading the line, and that's just one household, and that's how intimate the violence is, and the people that I work with. Um, but what I learned, though, even though I knew it was deep, I really see how deep the ramifications are of violence, like how intimate it is, right? Like we know it on a surface level because we hear the stories, we read the news, we get third party information. But sitting in a household where a mother son was murdered, and her son is calling home with a 60, 70-year sentence, talking to me about the juvenile bill, is a very, very intimate conversation. And it shows you how deep and fractured community is. And she's carrying both legacies. She's going to see that son in the ground, and she's getting the backlash of her other son putting somebody else in the ground. So that to me affected me the most and really pivoted the way I think about violence in the community, because I don't know another community that the violence is so intimate like that. And that's just one household. You're not getting into neighborhoods and stuff like that, but it's no more intimate than your household.
Mm,
So
mm. Shelby?
I think what was interesting is in a few of the conversations that we had, it was a room full of mostly men, and I think a lot of the men in the room really were talking about the effects of violence and how it affects women in general, and really wanting to give back and just restore and give back to like women, give back to like families. So I think I was like really surprised because when I looked at the room, there was definitely a clear imbalance, but there were a lot of like gender dynamics. And I think um, I just found it really surprising that these men were considering like how this affects women, mothers. So that's what I found most interesting.
So what do you both hope comes out of these conversations? Like when you finish with this this part of this collaborative effort, What do you hope will come out of these conversations, and what do you hope to do with all the information that you found? Do you circle back around? You know, I don't think this is a one-off. At least that's what Liz said to me last night. Um,
No,
what do you?
it's
Mhm.
not a one off, but so this conversations or our practices are rooted in restorative justice. Obviously, we are trying to find non-carceral solutions, and we are trying to empower people. Right? We got a lot of organizations out here. We got a lot of departments, and I don't know. I don't. They just miss the mark when it comes to our community. Like you said, the resources don't really find their way there. It just doesn't trickle down. So, what I hope is that we empower people in these practices to start to look at the words justice, the words healing, and how those things intersect. Accountability. I think community um, have been told what justice looks like, and which is, I mean, it's just a fact. Like we have an idea of what justice is. It brings no healing to any situation, right? It further divides, it fractures families. So I think the best thing that this is speaking from my perspective with the work, the best thing that I can provide is that people begin to take these words because justice is needed, like in every sense of the word. But it has to be some accountability and justice. Justice has to lead to healing, and somebody has to be made whole, regardless of the situation. And I think those are community decisions, whether it's in New Haven, whether it's in Bridgeport, whether we in the projects in Hartford, wherever we at. I think if we can empower community to say, for this community here, this is what justice looks like. This is how we hold people accountable. And often it will not take you to miss your son for 30 years and then come back even more fractured and more broken and a far different man that's drowning in a fast-paced world where he re-traumatizes the family on re-entering. So, but those are community decisions. Nobody from the outside is ever going to come in and fix that. It's too much money in it being broken, to be honest. So that's what I hope will happen. And then on the legislative side, I hope that when we turn around, that we build and empower people to come together and be a stronger voting bloc, so we can change these policies, how this money trickles down, how we are, enforced by the police. Those things, our school system. It's just so many issues that they've been talking about my entire lifetime. That the conversation is not different, but I think the method and the strategy of how we come together on both ends, taking more control of justice for us and our voting block can really change what our communities look like.
Thank you, Shelby. Last
Yeah.
words.
I would just echo the same things that Love has shared. I think definitely like building support. We want to really just like humanize the issue. I hope that every time someone leaves this conversation, they feel empowered, not just by, us being together, but like knowing that they're not alone and knowing that we're coming back and that we're going, to other parts of the state. And that when they do come back, they come back with, someone else so that the movement that we're building and we're organizing, it starts to grow. The credibility is definitely important for me. So, when people have an issue, they'll call us, "Hey, I don't like how this is going in the school," and they know that they have a community behind them that's going to support them, and we're going to be there. So, I hope that this is not just like a conversation full of empty words, and we're not just talking just to be talking. We're not spinning our wheels. We're coming behind it. Very intentional. We're coming with action. Um, and this is just the beginning. I think it's definitely gonna grow.
Well, thank y'all for getting up early this morning and having this very heavy conversation at 7 o'clock in the morning. I appreciate it greatly. I want people to know the community conversation on the intimacy of urban violence of 2025 is happening in New Haven tomorrow, Thursday, the 18th from 6 to 8 at the People Center. I go way back with the People Center. So I'm an old lady. I know the People Center from way back in the day. And they still doing groundbreaking work and still opening the doors for folks. So 37 Howe Street in New Haven. And the conversation continues. So if people are listening, and they are this morning, if you want to go and be a part of this conversation, join them and join this movement. Thank y'all for getting up early this morning and having this conversation. Go ahead, Shelby. You have something you want to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, I mean, the conversation is really, I feel like we said it, but I just want everyone to remember the conversation is for everyone. You don't have to be, formerly incarcerated. You can have a family member that's formerly incarcerated. You can have a neighbor. You could just be interested to hear more about like what we're describing. I think it's different from even, we've only really been here for a few minutes. But I think whoever comes, you'll be very surprised about what you learn, what you hear, how sincere people are. So really encourage everyone to come. This is literally for everyone. Justice for everyone.
That's just for
Thank you.
everyone.com. That's
Yes,
right.
justiceforeveryone.com.
Yeah,
Thank
you can
y'all so
find
much for
everything
getting up
there.
early.
All right.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Good
Thank
to
you.
meet
I'll
you.
see you out here in these justice streets.
Yes, please do.
All right. Welcome. Come back
All right.
anytime.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, Harry.
Mm.